I'm going to call the meeting to order. Select Board for May 28th, 2020. It's now 6 o'clock. We're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me if you will. I apologize for turning my back to you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey Jay, how are you?
Okay, yourself?
I'm good, thank you. All right. So who wants to start? Jay, do you want to start us off, or
Mr. Chair,
do you want to start us off?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so the 3 water commissioners are in view, as you can see, managing social distancing. Basically, with your permission, if they have a question, they'll raise their hand and I'll just ask them to be recognized. Is that okay?
That's perfectly fine, absolutely. Thank you. Jay?
Okay. Basically, to let the people of South Hadley know, the Granby Select Board has voted to go along with Mass DOT, because Mass DOT is rebidding the job from the South Hadley line to 54 West State Street. And Granby is still planning on going along to install the water pipeline. And we were given a letter that was dated 1 November of 2019. And I'm going to try and answer the questions here for the simple reason I thought they were already answered, but you can let me know. Like I say, we thought we had complied with everything. You had in the thing a hydraulic model by Titan Bond for all 3 phases. We paid for that, was submitted to South Hadley. So as far as we know, that's all completed and submitted.
So you can't see me, but I'm going to actually just talk if I need to be recognized. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
So you're absolutely correct. Granby did pay for that, did pay for the hydraulic model, did pay Chapel Engineering for the engineering and design. It went on paper, and I'm going to go outside the limits a little bit. So it went on paper. It was in conjunction with a DOT project. You're absolutely correct. From our understanding, most recently, the water main portion came in around $1.2 million, and that the DOT project was no longer going to happen because of the water main portion of the project. Now, when that project was put out to bid, it was understood that the state, Mass DOT, was going to pay for the police details, and they were going to pay for some of the trench patch and the inspection. So since then, I was contacted by Keith Lincoln, who is your engineer for Chapel Engineering, and he basically asked me for a proposal, or asked me what our requirements would be, because again, from my knowledge, he was going to be putting out a separate bid package that the Select Board for Granby was going to actually bid outside of the DOT project. Am I correct in that assumption?
You're correct in that we're putting a bid outside of the Mass DOT project, but Keith Lincoln talked to Mass DOT, and depending on how the work is scheduled, they're still willing to do the in-kind expenses for the police details and stuff like that, according to what we've been told by him.
Okay, so let me go a little further, and if any of my board members have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. But so when you talk about compliance, there were a couple of items that you were not in compliance with. You did provide us with consumption data, but specifically in our letter, we asked, and I don't have it in front of me as far as the date, but we specifically asked how many people were actually going to receive public drinking water off of the new water main.
Well, you told us.
Hang on, and we also, as part of that requirement, we required that the residents understand that they have to abandon their wells when they come onto public water, and all expenses incurred will be for the home or for the property owners. And to date, we don't know where that stands, and the biggest concern that we have as a water department or board of water commissioners is water quality issues. If the 12-inch water main goes in and you have two people drawing water off of that water main, we're gonna have problems.
Well, we're going by what we were originally told, that everybody had to mandatory tie into the water. Are you changing your position on that?
That's absolutely incorrect. What we said was that because it was gonna be on the Mass DOT road as part of the project, that every parcel should have a service run to it as part of your project.
And with that is in the plans. Every parcel has, what do they call it, a spike or something like that?
Curb stop. But
Whatever it is.
But, so that was our requirement, because we understand that once this Mass DOT project is complete with the water main, nobody will be able to allow to cut that road for 5 years.
That's correct, in the 5-year rule.
So going forward, you know, we talked about fire line connections, and I know that that's all been laid out in the design. But again, to date, we have no idea how many people have been approached along that parcel that are actually interested in domestic service from South Hadley Fire District 1, knowing that it's gonna be at their cost to go to tie off the curb stop and to abandon the well from their home.
We have approached every landowner in that area, and we have a document back from them when we were originally going for the first one, that they wanted the water and they were in support of the project.
Well, there's no evidence of such to us.
So I guess, Mr. Steer, what would you need from us? So is there a certain amount of people that you need to hook up to make this work efficiently?
So I was forwarded some information by Jay Joyce today regarding the amount of parcels that are along that stretch. And so the original project for Granby was gonna go to High Street, because that's where the DOT project was gonna cease.
Now, 54 West State Street. They just used High Street because it was the closest street. But if you go
Okay.
by the drawing, it's actually 54 West State Street, which is Little Italy.
Okay, so that being said, I mean, I don't know what the board feels. I'd like to hear from them, but me personally, from a water quality standpoint, I'd like at least 50 or 60% of the parcels along that stretch to actually utilize public drinking water. Because if we don't get that, then we're gonna have to have another conversation of possibly, if we run into water quality issues, then we're gonna have to start flushing in order to maintain water quality. And it's up to the board whether or not they're gonna wanna bill somebody, i.e. the town of Granby, for that, because it's gonna become a different issue.
I wouldn't
Well,
want to.
originally, we sent a list of how many businesses per parcel, how many houses, how many businesses, and everything for all 3 phases. We sent that back in June. We sent another one in July, and then I don't know what you want. We've given it to you about 3 times.
No, you haven't. You have
Yes,
not.
we have. Yes,
You have
we
not.
did.
You have not given us letters of commitment from parcel owners that they are definitely going to take that water. I mean, if you want to go and run a 12-inch main to have fire protection, okay. But if you're
Okay,
gonna
so
have,
you're taking away the requirement that there's not 100% requirement for Granby to be on the water pipeline now.
no, I didn't. So, Mr. Chair, I am not twisting his words. I want it perfectly clear to the audience listening and in this room that we specifically required that every parcel receive a service.
Right.
Okay, because of the DOT mandate that we cannot touch that road for 5 years. If in fact somebody makes a decision 2 years down the road to take a water service, then they're not gonna be allowed that. That's what our requirement was. We were never told on the percentage of customers that were actually going to receive the water. And then we also were never told who was gonna pay the $2,000 per parcel fee to Fire District 1 for that.
So is it a $2,000 fee for the service, or is it a, and that's just,
They call it a water improvement fee, according to our regs.
okay, so that's just to get it to, so someone can actually hook into it.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then the expense to connect from the curb stop to the residence is the homeowner's responsibility.
And let me ask, and not that you'd have I'd ask for a ballpark figure if you could. What would it cost, do you think, for a homeowner or business to hook up from the service?
I'm gonna say, so on average, I would probably give you, it obviously depends on the length of run, but I would give you an average of maybe $2,500 to $4,000.
What would that kind of run be?
Excuse me?
It would kind of run in distance, how far would that be? Would that price cover?
I would say you're going anywhere from 60 feet to probably 100 feet.
Okay,
But then again, there's the cost of removing the well supply out of the residence as well, because we can't risk cross-contamination. We have a specific policy in our cross-connection policy that you cannot have both water supplies in the same dwelling.
Well, we understand that and we agree with that. When a person decides to hook up to the public water supply, the electrical and the water line from their pump has to be severed, and then they would be, if there's a hole in the concrete, it would be all filled in. So there's no possibility of a cross connection.
That's correct, but that would all require inspection on our part prior to receiving.
We have no problem with you inspecting anything to make sure it's right.
Okay.
We never had a problem with that.
what would be the cost for a homeowner or business owner to abandon a well? And again, I'm just asking for a general cost. I'm trying to think to see what it would actually cost on average, a business, or, and they're pretty much all businesses there. It would cost them if they wanted to hook up.
That I don't really have an accurate pricing on. I know that when the water main went in on Morgan Street due to the waste management issue, those people were required to fill their wells with bentonite and sever the pipe from their house. I don't know what that cost was at that time. I wasn't paying for it.
Okay.
Waste management was paying for it. So, you know, we're trying to stay in compliance with what other requirements have been within the town of Granby.
Well, and thank you. I was just wondering, because if we get the question as to, you know, we can research that, and I was wondering if we receive the question, what would it actually cost for someone to hook up? I know I want to give a fair amount and make sure that, you know, we're somewhat correct.
Because in your 1 November, I think I lost you here. Because I can't see anything anymore.
Well, I can see you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Nope, I can hear you, but I can't, now I can see you.
Okay.
In the letter of 1 November, it said that we had to destroy the wells. And well, that's what the 1 November says, to destroy the wells.
Yeah, that means fill them in. Just what I said.
Well, I don't think there's a really, if they are disconnected from the foundation, both electrically and the water pipe, if the homeowner chooses to use the well pipe for something else, that's their property. And that's why you're not a green community like we are. And we have different rules and regulations that we have to, and guidelines follow about. And one of the things is they're giving out money for doing a geothermal heating system. And I don't know if you guys want to get into that and all that, but you don't even need air conditioning anymore. And they
That's-
can use the existing well water pipes for that.
Right. But part of the, if I'm hearing it correctly, and I believe I am, for them to provide the service, that's one of the requirements is that they'd have to abandon the well.
The well is abandoned if it's electrically and the water line from the well to the house is severed, disconnected, and if there's any holes, they be filled in with concrete, just like in the other parts of South Hadley.
So let me ask you this. So with the geothermal system, that well water has to enter a heat exchanger or an air conditioning condenser in the house, some kind of a coil to provide air conditioning.
It's
So that's-
outside.
Okay, you can tell me that all day. We have, I know about geothermal, trust me.
Okay, either way, let's get this part straight.
The
Okay,
bottom line is, we as a board, we want to stay consistent with what the requirements have been in the past. And that's the requirement that's been in the past. Your green communities issue is, that's your issue. That's not water department fire district one. You're asking us because of rising groundwater levels and everything else, that you're looking for public water to go up Granby Road to help promote probably business in Granby as well. And yet, there appears to be pushback. I'm actually gonna let one of my commissioners speak to this. Does anybody want to talk to that?
Yeah, we don't want, I don't think us as a group really want to be responsible if that's dead-ended and we have to flush it out and it creates a problem for us. That's one thing that I'm concerned with. I personally don't have any problems with you guys using your wells for other things. Myself personally, I don't know how the other board members, and I don't know what the legality of it is, but I hate to see people wasting their wells if they can use it for something else. That's how
I
I feel.
agree entirely with you. If they're paid for that, they can use it as long as it can't go in the house.
But I don't know what the rules are, and that's where I have to look to Jeff to ask him some questions about that.
Well, I can tell you, other parts of South Hadley, when they connect to the public water and they had existing wells, they disconnect the electrical cable, they disconnect the water from the well, and they fill in the foundation with cement. It's inspected by South Hadley, and if the people choose to use it or abandon it, it's up to them.
I'd love to get an example of that.
Look at the list I gave you for Steve Carpenter's address. He owns property in Granby and he lives in South Hadley.
I think the law is going to dictate as far as the
Because that's what I don't have, I don't have a problem.
So that's something we can, I guess, discuss down the road if we get to that point. Jay, how many, if you do know the answer to this, how many, I guess, businesses or homeowners, how many lots are available on that stretch? Do you have that?
Yes, I gave it in one of the one from Keith Lincoln, the second one that was sent out to South Hadley in July. It gives every parcel there just as they wanted to, and every one of those parcels has I guess they call them a spike or something like that from the main water line to attach to.
Yeah, so you said, I think you reset that today, and I'm looking at it as we speak. You're not seeing what I'm seeing, but, so, West State Street, Route 202, left-hand side, you got 16. West State Street, right-hand side, you've got another 20, so 36 houses.
I'm gonna say parcels because they're businesses.
Okay, well, parcels, whatever.
Okay, well, that's what we're trying to get straight, because sometimes parcels have more than one business. Originally, we gave you a count per business, and then you wanted parcels, so we gave you parcels. And that's why we did it with Keith Lincoln that way. We tried to do everything that was requested of us.
Anything I hit the car wash?
We're not going as far as the car wash. That won't happen till year 2023 if it happens.
You won't be to the car wash.
It's a three-phase project.
They recycle a lot of that.
There's a total of what, 49 parcels, was it?
So up to house 50, up to 54 West State Street, I don't know the amount of parcels. Jay, do you know that?
Off the top of my head, no, I'd have to look at that drawing or spreadsheet that I sent from Keith Lincoln, but 36 sounds about right.
Okay.
It looks,
Because
it
you
looks
just
like, this-
counted the ones on the left and the ones on the right of West State Street.
yeah, it looks like 30, minus those two, 37 or so, and they're actually businesses. Well, I take that back, there's a couple of vacant lots.
There's vacant lots, but the
Yeah,
biggest one in there, the two biggest ones for water usage will be the Granby Motel and will be the Stony Brook condominiums.
So we
That's
got,
why I said they need to know more than just a parcel. And that's why we counted out how many condos were there.
So roughly, Jeff, you need anywhere between 20 and 25 people to, or people or businesses or whatever it may be at that point, to commit, to make it efficient, right? Is that what I'm understanding from the get-go?
yeah, active parcels. I mean, you know, obviously active people that are currently residing along that stretch, absolutely. Now, so the way kind of as a summary, you know, you're looking to install a water main, you're looking to pay for services to be put to every parcel, not knowing who's gonna take it. Right now, you have no idea who is actually going to use public water. I mean, you're gonna have fire protection as well, yep, we understand that's important as well, but you have no idea how many people are actually going to use public water, knowing what the cost implications are going to be. It's a whole different scenario than when we went on Morgan, or they went on Morgan Street, because everything was entirely paid for by somebody else.
Right.
And it was a mandate because of the contamination or potential contamination of the wells. I'm trying to have the board and people listening understand the magnitude of what the select board in Granby is trying to achieve. That's all.
Well, we have letters signed by every business along that area that they want water.
Okay, they want water, but do they know what it's going to cost?
They don't know the exact cost, but they know there's gonna be a cost involved and they have to incur the cost. And they still said they wanted it.
I could send you a letter that I want a Mercedes. I want to drive a Mercedes, but I don't know what it costs.
No, I understand that, Jeff, and, you know, when it comes down to, you know, saying one thing and then coming down to committing to it when the time comes, could be something different. That's understood. So I just so correct, it's $2,000 about that for a service?
To South Hadley.
It's technically an entry fee. We call it a water improvement fee, but it's technically an entry fee to receive public water. It doesn't include any installation. It's basically to become a member of the South Hadley Water Department.
Right, and that's what, is that like the stub or whatever they call it at the end of the pipe?
It's the
Or the
service
side of the-
Yeah,
Service,
it's the
right.
that comes right from the water main and goes right to the curb stop at the property line of the parcel.
So and you're looking to do that for, it's a cost of $2,000 and you're looking to do that for each particular
Parcel.
a parcel or a actual business there, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, like someone like, that has the complex and there's X amount of dwellings there.
32
that-
condominiums in Stony Brook, if you want to know the count.
Okay, thank you, Jay. So 32. Does that require, how does that figure into it, I guess? So there's 30, that would end up being 32 apartments or what have you, using the water.
So
So I guess my question is, Jeff, if, we now we have 10 people that hook up to the system, and one of them is that condo complex that consists of 32 apartments or condos. Does that make a difference?
yeah, I guess it would make a difference, but they've got their challenges of getting the water service from the edge of the road to that complex. They've got to
Right.
go into a culvert, so that's That, again, that's an expense that they're not aware of right now.
Right. No, I understand that. I was just kind of trying to put it in perspective for myself. So how I would figure out if you needed everybody to hook up, or is that, does that make a difference because it's a larger complex there?
Well, you get another 30 at the Granby Motel. If you're gonna count each room as a hookup. I don't know. Again, we gave it to them by building, and then they said they wanted it by parcel, so we had Keith break it out and give it by parcel, because some parcels had more than one building on it.
Mr. Chair, one of my commissioners has a question.
Yeah,
Certainly.
just one of the points we're trying to get across is if we don't have enough usage on that main, and with a commitment to it, we have letters from people and kind of what our superintendent is saying, without a commitment, to have enough water movement through that pipe, we're gonna have issues with the water quality. So if we don't have that commitment, to the people knowing exactly what it's gonna cost them to tie into this water, if we build it and then they don't come, we're gonna have serious issues.
Okay, no, and I understand that completely. That's why I'm trying to ask some of the questions as far as how many hookups you really need to make it work.
From the services like the motel, isn't it just a service, one service? It's not individual with the motel, it's gonna be one service. It's not
For
gonna
a
be
motel,
individual, for individual units. So an example with that motel, it's probably one service that services the whole property. It's not individual, 9 units. Not each unit is gonna have its own service. It's gonna have one water service for the whole thing. But condominiums usually have their own.
Right.
Unless like in South Hadley, we have a condo complex that has a master meter at the street, and they take the water bill and they divide it amongst all the units.
Yeah, that they have it through their condominium association.
Right, and that brings me back to the question, if that complex has, decides to hook up to it, does that really make a difference? Now it could, be up to, it is 32 condos that are now hooked up to that system. That's the kind of question I was wondering, if that really impact the number. If you don't have all 40 parcels or all 40 people or businesses hooked up, but you have, that complex and maybe 10 other businesses hook up to it that are single businesses, would that actually work?
That would help. I mean, it depends on if there's, just for example, if the Stony Brook condos happen to be, I don't know, 5 parcels or 6 parcels from the initial connection, and then you've got another parcel that's at the end of the water main, just one single service coming off the end of that water main. The end of that service on the end of the water main is going to have, there's going to be not compromise, but it's going to be it could become a water quality issue for sure, just based on the size of the water main. And that's already been determined of what size it actually has to be based on your 3-phase approach to this water issue within the town of Granby.
Well, right now, we're just talking about the first segment of South Hadley to 54 West State Street, because nobody knows what's going to happen beyond then. They're telling us in FY 2022, there's going to be School Street and Route 202. Okay, just turn that off. And then in 2023, they're saying they're coming back for 5 Corners. But with all this COVID going around, nobody really knows when they're coming back and where the money's coming from. So we're just dealing right now from the South Hadley line to 54 West State Street, because that's the only thing Mass DOT is going out for bid for. And we do have a document from all the businesses individually that said they want the water. And they do know that they're going to have to pay for the hookup. Now, do they have the exact price? The answer is no. Because as you stated, there's a 2,000 feet for you, but it depends on the amount of feet from the road or the spike to where the location they want the water. It also depends if they have a foundation or not, or they're a slab. They're all different prices, and they understand. They were told that.
And Jay, I fully appreciate what you're saying. I totally do. My apprehension is if when they understand the entire cost of that commitment, and they say, you know what, I'll stick with my well, I'll stay with my UV treatment, I'll stay with my salt softener, I don't want public water. How does one handle that? And the Granby Select Board aren't gonna be the ones that handle it. It's gonna be the Water Department, Fire District 1, that's gonna have the responsibility, and we're gonna have to rectify that. And what I mentioned earlier is if there's two services, I know hypothetically speaking, along this route, then we're gonna have to flush that, we're gonna have to waste water at the end of that water main to keep things fresh. And somebody's gonna have to pay for that, because we're not in the business of wasting water, especially in today's age, through conservation efforts.
I completely understand that. And like I say, in the beginning stage, until some of that property is developed, we may have to do on the end of the 54 West State Street and the same thing that you do on Morgan Street. Because you flush that out, because that's a dead end as well.
Well, your fire department helps us out with that.
Well, the fire department could help you out with the other one too, but that's beside the point.
That's beside the point. The issue at hand right now is commitment.
Do you
Commitment,
have a specific application do you give to South Hadley residents to put it in?
so if somebody comes to us in South Hadley and they want a water service, there's a form that they come in and fill out, and they pay the fee before they're allowed to have water.
Okay, why don't you send us a copy of that form, and we have all the addresses of the people, they've already signed it once, and we'll send that form out to them.
So if that was to move forward, basically that form would be one form for all the services. Not each individual home would have to take out a water improvement fee application. It would basically be paid for, so the information would be filled out, the parcels would be identified on that form, and a check would be cut to us at that time. Once that happens, what we would do is we would build folders. We'd have folders in our office for every parcel by address or even a lot number. Okay? So we would have record of that. So when all those services go in, let's just say it's 36 services, and they connect, based on the fact that they committed to connect, because I don't know that you can really hold anybody's feet to the fire, whether it be a letter, a voice, whatever, when they understand what the cost ramifications are, I think they're gonna probably change their mind. I can't speak for them, but I think it's gonna be significant in people's lives, especially in today's world with the pandemic going on. We have an extremely high unemployment rate. We have fiscal budgets, I'm sure you're going through it right now like everybody is. Next year, fiscal 21 is not gonna be that bad, but 22, 23, and even 24, I think you're gonna see significant loss of revenues.
I think we're gonna see significant loss of revenues from now into 2024.
Well, you're about to pass your 21 budget like everybody else, so I think right now is okay, but next year is where it's really gonna show up.
Well, we haven't passed our 21 budget because it's not balanced, because we have no idea what the expenses are and where the revenue is coming from.
Well, that, again, we're gonna get off the beaten path with that. That's not the purpose of this meeting.
Yeah, we get back on track, please. Respect everybody's time. Jeff, I do appreciate it, and I do your concern, which is my concern too. Like you said, someone can say they wish to hook up at this point in time, but when the time comes, they say, no, I don't want to. It's a possibility when it's all said and done, it's a different owner. They're in a different financial situation at that time. A lot of things can come into play. And I understand that.
I think the most important thing too, to your point, Mr. Chair, is that, we're all in this together. I think the board speaks, we're still committed to providing safe drinking water to the residents of Granby and within these project limits. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be up to you as a select board, to finance this project, and I think it's not a bad thing to have all your ducks in a row prior to financing of this project, because it is gonna be significant. Based on the last numbers, who knows if the numbers are gonna change? I think, and again, I'm getting confused on some of the messages that are being said today where, the DOT was gonna pay for inspection and they were gonna pay for police details. And from what I've been told, that was gonna be borne on the town of Granby. Because you're now bidding this project separately outside of the DOT project.
And I know Jay had some different information, and obviously it's different when you have, and our responsibility as the board of selectmen is that we have it's accurate and correct before we move forward. Absolutely. Does someone have like a TV on or something? Because I get a lot of like feedback.
Not me.
No?
I hear the
I
feedback.
hear nothing.
I hear feedback.
I don't.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions? Jay, do you have anything else you want to bring up?
I was just gonna go over what they had on their letter as far as what they do. We got 48 of the support letters up to the 5 corners from businesses that want the water. If they want a specific application filled out, give us the application and we'll get them filled out.
I have a question, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Are the rules and regulations of the department, the revision December 2017, are those the most recent and accurate?
Yes.
So we could, in theory, use the application that is on that and distribute that to our residents?
So the water department rules and regulations, are you referring to what's online?
Yes. The application that is there, application for water impact study.
So that's a whole different.
And then, okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's basically for developments. If you were, this technically qualifies as a development, but, you as the town of Granby, that application is used for if somebody was coming to us and then we had to hire an engineer to review, you guys have taken care of all that. You've already loaded those upfront costs. You've paid for the tie and bond peer review. You've paid for the hydraulic model. And then now you've paid for the engineering through Chaplin. The other thing that I would like to mention is that, and hopefully there's transparency through you and Chaplin Engineering, is that, he reached out to me of what he was going to provide you for a scope to actually provide a bid package for you. And in that, I requested that Ty and Bond do the inspection. So
Okay.
he said he was gonna do, Chaplin was planning on doing it, but I really like to see Ty and Bond do that.
okay, so would the rest of the sections in that document, would they apply?
So what you're looking at is the requirements like materials, you're looking at soils, you're looking at hydraulic grade lines, stuff like that. And I don't have the document in front of me, but basically it's a guidance document that actually Chaplin was using in order to put the specifications together for your project.
Okay, I'm actually looking specifically at section 7, which is cross connection and backflow prevention.
Okay,
Would it be feasible to say that if our residents chose to not completely abandon their well, would they be able to put a backflow preventer in to
no,
use it for irrigation, things like that?
they can't enter the foundation of the home.
That's part of our requirement.
Our requirement is you can't have well and town water in the same foundation.
Okay, can you tell us where we could find that requirement? Because I've been searching and I cannot find it.
I actually can send that to all of you tomorrow.
That would be perfect, thank you.
If, I think, I know I got an email from Jay today, but You guys, do you all have my email address?
I do.
Okay. Feel free to email me and I'll send that out tomorrow. I'll send it to all of you.
So, Jeff, because I don't know the answer. So, if I am a business owner and someone comes to me and says, "Gee, we're thinking about bringing water through and hooking it up. Would you be interested?" Yes, I would be interested in it. How would that person go out and get an estimate to find out exactly what it's going to cost? Because that would be, that would be me saying, "Great, but what is it going to cost me to hook it up?"
Sure. I mean, you could call any local contractor and have a conversation. I mean, it probably would require a site visit. And they take a look at it and provide that price, that cost.
Dave
Got
DeRoche had talked to Marion Glenn, Marion Construction. Dave DeRoche was in touch with them.
But I think that's a helpful information that when we do go door to door, or place to place, and we're asking people that you tell them that, you can contact a contractor to see what it would cost you to do it. I know if I own a business there, that's what I want to know. What is it going to cost me to hook it up before I say yes or no? Yeah, I like water, but it all depends on what it's going to cost me. If it costs me $10,000, $15,000, I may be saying no.
And then on top of that, Mr. Chair, you're gonna hear, all right, so what's the average water bill gonna be? Now, again, we have consumption figures that were provided to us in an Excel sheet. I believe it came off of the sewer use bills over there along that stretch. But you're absolutely right. Now, thinking it a little further, how many of those dwellings have cellars where it's easy accessible? How many are on slabs where it becomes a whole different animal coming through a slab versus a foundation wall? Again, I don't know those answers, but those can significantly impact those types of costs. I don't know where the wells enter the dwelling. Do they enter in the rear of the dwelling? Do they enter in the right side, the left side? Those are all key questions that I have that are going to significantly impact those costs.
What is a typical water bill? And I asked that because I hadn't paid one in 25 plus years. So what is a typical water bill, say for a business like Little Italy or a Pizza Palace? You think?
Bear with me.
If you don't know, Jeff, that's okay. I'm just wondering, like you said, there's another cost that goes along with that, and that's the water bill. Is there a cost per? It was like 1,000 gallons or something, or
120 gallons a month or something like that.
Bear with me. Now, again, we're going to talk about average cost, correct?
yes. I think I use 120 gallons when I take a shower.
You don't have one of those nozzles up there?
You get 750 of our gallons for 750 gallons of our water for $3.92.
750 gallons, 390.
Old Spring can't match that. So an average yearly cost to a homeowner would probably be around $450.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
So you got the $450 on an average, and $2,000 to South Hadley to hook it up. It's $4,250 plus the cost to install the 1-inch water pipeline, or larger, depending on what it may be.
That was a question posed to me. That's an average cost. It can vary significantly.
Right. That's an average, right? It could be more, it can be less, but that's average. So, roughly, just based on some of the numbers you've given, roughly, it's on an average. This is just maybe on an average. It could be up to about $5,000 per person to connect. And that's basically on an average, on the low side. You know, so is that fair to say?
Yep. That's a very fair thing to say.
So one time.
I think you as a,
The one-time charge.
I think you as a board have done a great job to this point in terms of being compliant with the requests of the Board of Water Commissioners and, you know, working with Ty and Bond and all that. Again, the missing link is the knowing the cost and actually knowing how many people are gonna draw water off that water main.
Commitment we're gonna get.
You know,
Yes,
Mr. Chair, Scott has a question.
Okay.
yes, yeah.
And this, if I was on their end, the question I'd want to know, if I had a well and I wanted to use it for irrigation, is it okay if their pump and everything was disconnected from their house, could they still keep a well working on the outside of the house?
If they ran power to the outside in a separate building, they could,
Do they
yeah.
have a barn out in the back or something, there's no water coming from us in there, could they keep their well to irrigate or use it for their, you know, their animals, their cows or whatever out there? So could they use it for that?
So Jay is referring to a letter dated November 1st that says that you need to abandon the wells. If you, as a board, want to change your opinion on that, it's not something you have to decide today. But again, this is being compliant with what happened on Morgan Street.
Right, and I think that's what Jen was asking earlier, that would someone be able to still use their well for an irrigation system or something like that? If it actually didn't have to go inside the dwelling, somehow they made it work from the outside.
I have no objection to that.
I personally, I'm a common sense, I think that's silly to force somebody to fill their well up in order to, you know, get water from inside their house. So long as the pipe isn't in the house, I wouldn't personally have a problem with it. And it doesn't sound like Bill has a problem.
You have other residents in South Hadley that already do it that way. That's why I said they shouldn't be treated any differently.
Jeff, if I think I heard you correctly, you said you wouldn't have an issue as long as the pipe and nothing went inside the house. Is that correct, or did I misunderstand that?
So that's what our policy is now. But again, the letter was written, obviously we have a new board member on board now. So if this board is going to allow a private well outside to be sure that it doesn't enter the dwelling, because it will require obviously inspection on our part, which I'm totally fine with. That's their decision.
Okay,
We cannot again, the word potential is a very broad brush term. You know, the well could be disconnected. We could leave the dwelling, they could drill, you know, reinstall it, and then
That's
we've seen issues
Yeah.
that's all. I'm just gonna say that.
no, and I understand that, there's that possibility, someone could actually, and do that. That's real, can't say it's not possible.
Well, then the issue becomes if that in fact happens and we have a contamination issue, then we're searching high and low to find that out, and then it becomes a whole different ballgame.
So the real issue right now is a commitment. You have to know how many people roughly. First. So, and in spite of that, what are the costs?
And I agree with that, and I think that's some work that we need to do, as far as a commitment from the people on that line that would be there. And I think is for them to understand the cost that's involved in it. Yes, I'd like water, but yes, it's gonna cost, and for that person to have an accurate idea of what it would cost, they should be contacting a contractor to come out and say, yes, I want to, with possibility of a water line coming through, I want to install water into my building, what would be the cost? And I think that's fair, and they would at that time, I guess, understand that. And we could, get some type of commitment, but like I said earlier too, when it's all said and done, and the project is done, and it's a different owner or finances are different at that time, they could possibly change their mind.
I think these people,
Yeah,
Well,
so,
Dave DeRocha had Marion Construction looking at all the properties to get an estimate per property prior to the COVID-19. I know that for a fact.
Okay, and that's not done yet, Jay?
No, they had to stop it because of COVID.
So to my knowledge, that hasn't been done, because I would have thought that Marion Excavating would have contacted me to kind of confirm the material requirements and everything else, but that's a whole nother issue. The other thing I'd like to make the board aware of, and I'm sure that Keith Lincoln has or will tell you, is that if in fact that old project has gone away, the DOT permit ran out on it. Or you'll have to file for a brand new DOT permit, because you're going to proceed as a separate contract through the town. That I don't believe the permit will carry over. Something to be aware of.
Okay.
Bill has a question.
I appreciate the effort that you put into this so far, and I admire you for your perseverance. I think one thing you gotta get through to the people who are going to be receiving this water is it's never going to be any cheaper than it is now. And the longer, of course, it's gonna get.
You are correct, Bill. I mean, $450 a year, who can beat that? And guess what? When they lose
Yeah,
the
you already
power,
paid for it as well.
well, when they lose their power, they can at least keep flushing their toilet.
It's a beautiful thing, trust me.
Don't get me in trouble in Granby. I've got a lot of friends there. I don't want to lose them.
Oh. No, like I said, when I look at that area, a lot of it is,
It's all business.
they're all businesses, and they probably all have a bathroom. No, like a lot of people aren't taking showers and stuff like that. It's just a business that's open during the day, and the bathrooms probably get, minimum use. That's it. I guess that's what I look at. That's why I said we can reach out to the businesses and see where they are as far as the commitment. But I don't know. I gotta say, if I'm a business and I have a bathroom and, it gets used maybe 15 times, 20 times during a day, am I willing to spend money for it when I already have something paid for? So, and then again, there's some of those businesses are owned by different people, and they rent the building, the spaces out too. So
Like
that's also a consideration that we gotta look at too, because if someone, we gotta look at that as well. There's a lot of things to consider.
Ed Oz wants to know when it's coming. That's all he keeps asking.
Who's that, Jay?
Ed Oz. He just wants to know, when is it coming? Same as Granby Motel, when is it coming? I said, when Mass DOT gets around to doing their work. We can't do anything before then.
So Ed Oz is waiting for water, and I'm gonna go back to Jen's question initially regarding our rules and regs. You'll notice in that rules and regs that any service over 100 feet requires a meter pit at the street. So that adds to the cost. So an average cost of a meter pit is right around anywhere from $700 to $1,000. So and then the meter is installed by us at the street line, and then the water service runs to the building. And the purpose for that is that the service being so long, if there was a leak, if they're paying for it, they'll fix it quicker. If they're not paying for it, then it's harder to get them to fix it. We instituted that a long, long time ago.
And that's 100-foot distance, correct?
That's correct. Anything over 100 feet. So again, when we're talking to, when you're talking to parcel owners, bring a wheel with you, or have Dave bring a wheel and say, all right, well, they're gonna require a meter pit. Those are the things, when you say that Marians have been looking at this, they would know that. So again, I just wanna throw that out there.
Well, that's why we rely on the Chris Martins and the Dave DeRochas. And Dave DeRocha's working with Marion, and Chris Martin, we were on the impression was forwarding all this material just like you got today from me. That's all should have been given to you guys.
Well, ultimately, it's gonna be you as the select board, and they're gonna put the ink to the bond and the ink to the contract, so
Well, we understand that, but we're not the everyday workers. We get told the data, we make the vote, and we go on from there. It's up to the everyday workers to do the legwork and then give us the data so we can make our decisions.
How soon can we get an idea on this commitment issue?
Right, and I think we have some work to do. As Jay pointed out too, Marion might have been, Dave Drozer might have reached out to Marion, but as the COVID-19 took charge of a lot of things that could be on the back burner. So again, that's something that we could look at as a select board and follow up with Dave and Mr. Martin and see where that is and there's sort of estimated time as to when that can be done, because I think that's important information, and I think that's reasonable information that you're really looking for. Am I correct, Jeff?
That's correct. Yeah, so am I under the understanding that you haven't received the proposal from Keith Lincoln yet to put this out to bid?
As far as I know, I believe we had, Mr. Martin has already, we've authorized it to be paid. What status of it is, I can't tell you. We
Mr.
voted to
Martin.
go ahead with it.
So Mr. Martin has not received any documentation from Keith Lincoln referring to that
Oh, he hasn't?
yet. No.
No contract has been received, no contract amendment has been received from Keith Lincoln.
Well, didn't know. I know we voted to do it, and I didn't know what was going on from there.
Because there are additional costs, Jay, that we have to understand. I asked him, what did his $25,000 include? And then he quoted me an additional $20,000 to do additional work. And then he quoted me that we're gonna need a clerk of works, which could be probably up to another $100,000.
Well, that's why we rely on you and David to give us the information. This is information that we were never given.
You were given it, Jay, because you were part of the email stream.
I saw some of the stuff that you were asking him
Okay.
questions, yes.
That's not why we're here right now. We can follow up on that another time. And being respectful to the gentleman from South Hadley. Do we have any more questions from us for them?
No, mine have been answered. Thank you.
Jeff, do you or your group have anything more for us?
Any other questions?
No, I don't have anything. I'm good.
No, we are fine. As always, I'm here to help whatever questions may arise after tonight. I will, I'd be happy to help. I already have one request from Jen, so I'll follow up on that tomorrow.
Thank you.
We definitely appreciate that. All right. I guess at this time, if we don't have anything else, I'll take from the select board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the joint meeting between South Hadley, can't talk, and the Granby Select Board.
I'll second that.